to go and read a book, to go and be by the seaside, to go and breathe the air. If you sit in darkness, you'll stay in darkness. If you decide that you need to stand and you need to walk or you need to run or you need to do something other than that, then that's the courageous part.
This podcast is proudly supported by the Ōtara Network Action Committee, ōNAC Community-Owned, Community-Driven and Community-Led.
Welcome back to another amazing episode of Otara Podcast, sponsored by the amazing group. I don't know if you heard about them, the ōNAC Group. ōNAC Group is an amazing group of people who are out there for Otara and for our people, basically Otarians. So if you ever see them around, say hello. My name, of course, is Vincent Taro Vitalina. I want you to know my name because you're part of our family. Today, we're doing an amazing interview. We had already done it before, but Mum's your uncle. Ain't that right? Well, Mum's your uncle. No one knows. But we are with our amazing Huia. We had an amazing conversation the last time around on Zoom, but Zoom wasn't very nice to us, so we're going to do it face-to-face. So welcome.
Kia ora.
So can we please hear about your amazing journey, your amazing intro, please?
Okay, so ko te mea tūtahi ngā mihi ki a koe, me koroa hoki, me koutou ngā tangata I rongo. Ko Waio, ko Huia Murupaenga, tuku ingoa, ko Ngāti Kuri, ko au, ko Ngāti Kuri. So my name is Huia Murupaenga. My journey, wow. So if I just start, not right from the beginning, because we don't want to hear 50 years of my journey, and I am going to be 50 soon. So if we start from when my father passed away, which was 5 years ago. So he comes from a little iwi called Ngāti Kuri. So that actually means, kuri means dogs, but actually they're seals. So when our people come in, they saw these, well, they didn't know what it was. They thought they were dogs barking, but they were actually seals, so Ngāti Kuri. And I love our community back up home, our haukainga, lived in Pukepoto, not far away from Ahipara, 90-mile beach. And my father is from another beautiful place called Kapuwairua, which is Spirits Bay. And surrounded by Pārenga Harbour, and also my mum on my Ngāti Kahu side is from a little place called Waiari, the hapu, which is Te whanau moana. So I was always, I always grew up with those three moana around me. And so my journey, which was way before my father passed away, but my journey in understanding who I am was about knowing more about my people on my Ngāti Kuri side, on my dad's side, because I was really moki. I was really lonely for my dad when he passed. So this taonga is a pūhara keke. And back in the day when there was like many of them back in the day, our people would put it around their village. And if anything stood on it, it would do a little wail, like a little karanga.
Like a call, right?
Yeah, like a call. And that was the tohu or the sign that something was coming. They didn't know whether it was friend or foe. Probably foe, because if they're coming in and people didn't know that they were coming, it was probably a not a friendly whatever.
Yeah.
So this here is my guardian angel, my guardian, my kaitiaki, and I take it with me to remind me of my people and my journey to knowing my people. But I've lived in Tāmaki and Ōtara for 31 years.
Hey!
Yep, and have 3 beautiful children. Anahira, who's behind me, is the youngest of my 3.
Hello there.
And very much like her mother, so she knows herself. My other 2, Kayla and Trent, have both got children. So we have 3 mokopuna. So 3 children, 3 mokopuna. That number 3 seems to be something. But also in my journey, I've been really blessed in not just living in Ōtara, and I've lived in Auckland longer than I lived back home. I left when I was 19. But the fact that I've been able to work in different roles and very diverse, just all different types of roles, but working with whanau, hapu, and then iwi. So when I work alongside my elders, and I think I shared with you before, Vinny, that, our elders are can be very wise and also really funny. Like, so funny. They're and naughty, but a really good naughty.
Yeah.
So it's been a real honour for me to work with my elders in the space of te taia, which is our environment. There's something special in the mahi that I do with these elders. And elders, I mean our kaumātua and kuia. And when we gather, there's just something special about that. So we name endemic species. And what that, I don't even know what endemic species was. And what that actually is it could be fauna or flora. So anything from insects to plants to things that are in the moana, anything. And so we started off with remu, which is seaweed. And my whanaunga said to me, you always say that you want to support our tangata, our iwi. So I want you to work with our scientist who specialises and is an expert in remu. Remu is seaweed.
Okay.
I have no idea about anything to do with seaweed. Like, why did you ask me? But it was the relationship with our scientific world and the knowledge and the mātauranga of our people, which is basically the same. So we've got scientists who navigate stars, and we've got scientists who just understand plants like rongoa, medicine. And when you have the combination of that and our scientists who are recognised with qualifications, that there is magic. And so been involved in that mahi for probably the last 4 years, and I started that mahi. So now my kaumātua, an elder, he is the pouheranga. He looks after that. And I think altogether over the years we have, I think it's about 300 and something named species and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more to go. So, yeah.
Again, like I said in the first podcast, let me unwrap every part of that. That's awesome. Like just hearing your amazing work within the 4 years, and then you start off with an amazing journey, and I can picture every part of it going towards where you are. And it's awesome for you to share it once more, because it never, honestly, when I hear people's stories, it's never gets old and never gets tiresome, because you will always come up to different people that will always have different stories to tell, and you always have this amazing way of telling it. So thank you for sharing it once more for us to hear. Thank you. Now, I want to give you a little heads up. You said 31 years you've moved here, right? I'm 31.
Wow.
I'm 31. So it's amazing to hear that you moved in the same time as I moved into the hood as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm 31 years old. I'm going to be turning 32 in June, by the way. So,
wow.
Yeah. So
my birthday's June as well. Stop it. Don't say the date, because it might be the same. Wow.
I'm going to say it June the 2nd.
Oh, 30th. Okay.
But here's the thing. It's like the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere thing started at the end. if you think about it, I'm at the start and then we meet at the end of it. We celebrate your birthday. Will's having a chuckle, by the way.
I know, I can hear him. I can hear. I'm going to have to unpack that a little bit later. That's cool. That is very
beginning
cool.
at the end.
Yeah.
Now, there was a leading question, and Will almost lost me with his chuckle at the end. Now, let's unpack your 31 years. So the podcast is about Otara. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your little journey in Otara and how the growing up there as well.
So I was 19 when I left home, which is actually quite old when you consider a 19-year-old. And so I left when I was 19, met my husband, actually, when I was 19, and we're still together. We both turned 50 this year. So I'm just really blessed. He and his mother and father actually moved to Ōtara back in I think it was the 70s. I gave you the wrong date when we first did it, so that's probably why we're doing it again, so I can correct myself. So it was the 70s that they moved into Ōtara, and that was the beginning of, that was really the beginning for them. My husband's father passed away when he was 11, and it was just him and his mum. So his mum, Girlie, was just an amazing woman, an amazing queer. She, how do you explain someone like her? She was one of these quiet ones that would sit in the kitchen and bake. Like sit in the kitchen, bake, make sure that there was always food on the table. And she just had this way about her where if she did speak, she spoke with a lot of mana and a lot of wisdom. Yeah. And so I would spend so much time in that kitchen with her, which is the kitchen that we have today. Yeah. And so I just remember her talking, like she would always have this place in Otara Town Centre where she'd go to sit and just be. And the diversity and the languages that you could hear, that would make her feel really moke moke. I always use that word, moke moke, which is lonely for her home and for her parents. Okay. So if I think back to when I was a 19-year-old, I was brought up on kumara. We always were in the gardens. Our playtime was like swimming in the creek, picking plums off the tree, sunshine, beach, and fish. That was our diet. Fish and kumaras. Yeah. By the time I was like 19, I was so over fish and kumaras. I wanted McDonald's. So came to Otara and was just this real village girl, but I didn't know that. And so through my 31 years, been really challenged. I have, been really challenged about me being a wahine Māori, a mama wahine Māori, and, comments like, you're just too nice. Oh, you're not like other Māori. You're like really clever. Wow, are you really that way? Like it was just, I think back to it and I'm like, wow, I am who I am and I'm proud of who I am.
Yeah.
But back then as a 19-year-old, I had no idea what that kōrero was. Just really naive and innocent, I think is the word. So when growing up in Ōtara, really grounded as a 19-year-old. Yeah. And that is my home and will always be my home for my children and my mokopuna. And they also know their home is on my side, back in Whatuwhiwhi, Waiari and Pukepoto where I grew up. But their home is also on their father's side, which is at Kaupapa and Marae with their elders there. So our children are very lucky to be grounded in both sides. Yeah. Ōtara itself, of those 31 years, I actually never really worked in Ōtara. So I've always worked outside of Ōtara because, wherever the mahi is, wherever the work is, you go there.
Absolutely.
And I've been really privileged to be able to do some mahi with Ōtara Waterways and Lakes Trust Board. So that mahi is just ensuring that when we engage with hapuri, with community, our Ōtara community, and Flatbush, which is also part of that catchment, that we're doing it in a way which is tika me te pono, which is correct and true. So it's going to be a long journey, but one that I'm absolutely excited about because I walk alongside Jude Spate. So that's going to be an amazing journey. And I always think about the waka. You know, you're on the waka and you hoi. And so that's the journey that we're going to be on.
Yeah, you mentioned Judy Spates. Shout out to Judy Spates, by the way. You mentioned her and you mentioned the waka that was built. Like most journeys, you need a sturdy boat. You need a sturdy vehicle to get across. And I see that in the Water, Lakes and Trust. They got a very sturdy boat, and it's amazing to see the work that has been achieved. Yeah. Like I've worked with amazing people like Danielle and Charlie and Long. I'm shouting out to the team, my homeboys, you know. They're an amazing group of people who have dedicated themselves to ensuring that our generation gets a chance at seeing what you had seen in the past, you know. I like to say that I was in that generation, but I'm not. I never got that lucky chance to swim in those lakes where it was beautiful and clear. I only get to hear it from like my brothers and my sisters who was born around those ages. That, you know, I have a sister who's close to around your age. And she would tell me about the days where they used to swim. It was awesome. And then you can't do it now because it's very, very dirty.
Yeah. So it's so I'm quite new to this to the trust board but not new to the kaupapa. So what is the kaupapa? It's water. And so why? I mean, as human beings, we're made up of I don't know what the percentage is, but whatever it is, we're made up of water. Absolutely. So water is taonga. And if you paru water, which is if it's dirty, then how do we ensure for our future generations and our mokopuna, our grandchildren and their grandchildren, that it goes back to how it was, pristine. So it's really that is a kaupapa that is close to my heart. And I'm sure for other people within the community and actually Aotearoa.
It's general, right? They feel the same way. It's I always like to think that where you live is like you're like your own part of your own body. Yeah. You take care of it. You make sure that it's clean and it's healthy. And you have amazing people like yourself and Sully who are making sure that certain sectors of where you live is taken care of, is tended to. So it's awesome to see your work out there. Quite often you see a lot of our young youth who feel very discouraged into doing this sort of work. What sort of advice would you give to those who wanting to stand up and stay proud for them?
Yeah. So with our youth, you know, I've also been in those different roles that I was talking about. I've had the opportunity to work with our rangatahi. Aha ko te aha, you know, wherever they're from, aha ko. So wherever they're from and whoever they are, I've been really, really humbled to work with our youth. And with our youth of today, they're very savvy. Like they're just savvy as far as technology. I try and push a button, nothing happens. Our young ones, they just push a button and all sorts of things can happen. So what I have found in the past and even to this day now is that for our youth, if you talk to them like you're above them, you're not going to get engagement. Yeah. So when I'm with any person, I have this mantra that I've sort of been taught just recently, that any person that you are engaged with are creative, resourceful and whole. And with our rangatahi, if you are truly engaged with them, they're going to feel that. They're going to know whether you're genuine or not. And so my kōrero at any point in time with any of our youth is first dream. You know, he hato moia. He hato moia for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And surround yourself with people that will uplift you and keep you on track to that moia. Because whatever it is, it's going to be a challenge. Because if it isn't, then it probably isn't really the moia that you should be looking at, or the main goal, or whatever. So that's really important.
Not many young people get the chance to realize their dreams are real. Half the time that, I don't know if you've seen it yourself, I see it often, like myself as well, is that our dreams don't really become materialized until later in the year when they realize it before it's gone. But from what I'm trying to say is that our young are getting hit with reality too early than normal. And it's sad because I look at your story and I look at Sully's story, who's, they were given chances to try and make it, but we're sort of stuck into that box where it gets as years go by, it gets closer and closer. So with that said, if you had to go back to 19-year-old yourself, what would 19-year-old self tell the youth of today what they need to do to encourage themselves to rise up, to see that dream to be a reality?
My 19-year-old self would be pretty straight up, and it would be courageous. Just be courageous. So there's this saying, tama tū, tama ora, tama noho, tama mate, which is stand, be alive, sit, and you die.
That's full on, man. Could you care to break it down for us?
So with any whakatauki, there's so many levels or layers to that. And so I think about some of the mahi that I do in social services. So I've sort of worked in health, education, just all sorts. So when you're on the front line, and especially when you're working with youth, and especially if you're working in crisis, there's a lot of reaction. So you react to things. And if there's no food, then they're not going to think about dreaming or anything like that. So with some of our whanau that are just in that realm of crisis on crisis on crisis, it's until you get up from the couch, out of the house, even if it's to catch the bus or to walk somewhere, to talk to someone outside of the four walls that you might be in, to go and read a book, to go and be by the seaside, to go and breathe the air. If you sit in darkness, you'll stay in darkness. If you decide that you need to stand and you need to walk or you need to run or you need to do something other than that, then that's the courageous part.
I just got to say this is beautiful. And I think, I know so that we need to hear this more often than anything, especially these hard times. It comes with the situation when you hear these sort of words. It's comforting, not only comforting but very powerful. You hear words often, but you don't realize what's being said to you until later. But if you hear something like this, powerful, meaningful, and comforting, it will just have much more impact than just saying words. Yeah. And I'd like to thank you for sharing that. It's awesome.
You're welcome.
Thank you. As we all come towards the end, I always love to leave our viewers and our listeners to something amazing. So I know you've been saying amazing words, but can you please share to our Otarians out there a piece of what you would think is a positive quote or a saying that you like to say to them to keep them uplifted, keep them reminded that we're amazing and we're important.
I'm just trying to think of one that, you know what, I'm just going to kōrero about it. So, with the last 2 years with COVID, it's not just Aotearoa, it's globally, right?
Yeah.
And we hear things like, be kind to each other. We give love to those that are your friends and your family and all those sorts of things. And there's been quite a rift. There's been quite a rift. And I always think back to our tupuna and how they would have navigated their way to a new land, and how when they got to this new land that there would have been things that they had to do to survive. And I think this is just a test for all of us, right? And so we talk about manaakitanga. What is manaakitanga? That you serve each other, that you share that real aroha, that I'm human, you're human, let's look after each other. I think in these times people have forgotten what that is, or are so wrapped up in the sadness of everything that things just aren't, the bigger picture sometimes they just can't see. So in sharing this, all I want to my message, I suppose, is ka aroha tētahi ki tētahi. And our babies used to be taught that when they were going to kura. And it is, I share with you my love, you share with me your love, but actually it's the love of our tupuna that are sharing with each other.
This is an amazing interview, and it's always a pleasure to hear such words like that. I myself has gone through some struggles, and changes do come through, and with words like that, I'm going to take it home and I'll make sure that not only it's in my pocket, but it's in my heart. So thank you again for sharing.
Kia ora.
Huia, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Big smiles as well. Look at that, Will. Get a shot on that. Amazing smile, amazing spirit. And as my father would say to you, keep with God and love with your heart. Thank you so much once again. And thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. I hope you are well and stay healthy. Kia ora.